Hey everybody, I'm Ethan James with thehonestcarpenter.com. A company called Indestructible Shoes reached out to me about reviewing some of their products recently. You might have heard about Indestructible. Their ads are all over Facebook and Instagram right now. And that's where I saw them, and I'll admit that I was curious about their shoes. So I was excited when they sent me out a pair. Now, the hype with Indestructible Shoes is naturally that they're indestructible. All of their marketing is geared around abusing the shoes on camera and subjecting them to ludicrous testing scenarios. Of course, if you just watched my intro, you know that I'm going to be doing the same thing in this video. But I'm also going to be focusing on the realistic performance of these shoes. Because, let's be serious, there's no such thing as an indestructible shoe. I don't care how tough a shoe is, with minimal effort and power tools, it can be destroyed. My focus here was more on the performance of the shoes compared to their price line. In other words, are they good shoes for what they cost? Are they worth buying? And given that their price line is about $70 to $90, as opposed to say $100 to $200 for full-size work boots, I'm taking these things into consideration as well. Since we're talking about cost, I'll also mention that Indestructible gave me my own coupon code, Honest20. They have something like 40 different shoe styles currently, and if you order anything through their website, this coupon code will give you an additional 20% discount. So when the video's over, if you want to check out all their products, don't forget to plug in my coupon code, Honest20, to save some money. Alright, let's get going. I got the Ryder Grey shoe model. It's a mesh design with a thick sole and steel toes. Indestructible sent me out traditional shoelaces and their no-tie laces. But I prefer normal laces, so I'm testing with those. From the outset, the shoes feel good. Indestructible's aim was to make a sneaker-style work shoe that combines safety aspects you would normally only find in clunky boots. I think they definitely nailed the sneaker element. Even if the design is not your cup of tea, you would probably still never peg them for work shoes. That said, the steel toe does make them a little heavier than they look. You can feel them on your feet. But the fabric itself is extremely light, and they're not as clunky as steel toes I've worn in the past. Just walking around in them for about 30 minutes, I was already used to wearing them. It sort of made me wonder how they would break in over time. But, of course, I'll never know because this pair is slated for immediate destruction. So let's get to what you came here to see. Indestructible seems to pride the shoes on several criteria. Those being that they have no-slip soles, they offer toe protection with the steel toe, and otherwise that their overall durability is very high. Now, I'm going to run a variety of experiments to test these things, but since these shoes are going to be unrecognizable by the end, I thought it'd probably be best to start with the no-slip factor. In my line of work, the place where foot grip counts the most is on ladders. So I unfolded my 6-foot ladder and did some of the usual weird twisting and turning that my job requires. I was surprised, but my first take was that these things really do grip well. I don't know what this sole is made of, but between the material and the ridge design, it actually does seem to grab the ladder rungs. And yet I wondered, how would it stick to a really slick surface? To test that, I wrapped a piece of plywood with some heavy plastic. Anybody who's ever sealed a crawl space knows that 5 to 10 mil plastic is pretty slick on its own, but I thought I'd crank it up a little bit. So I coated the plastic with dish soap, put it on a steep grade out in the yard, and wet it down. Predictably, when I got on it, I went sliding right down it. But then something kind of funny happened. When the shoe soles were fully wet, they actually seemed to grip better. I thought it might be a fluke, so I added a lot more soap and grabbed the hose. I wet the plastic, cleaned off the shoe bottoms, and tried again. I definitely slipped a bit, but I was really surprised that I could stay on my feet and change directions. Overall, this test impressed me. The soles weren't perfect, but I had to give the shoes an A for the no-slip test. So how about that steel toe? As you saw in the intro, I simulated a heavy crush factor by dropping 26-pound weight from a height of about 72 inches. And I put grapes in the toe box to simulate some organic tissue in there. I've got some good news and some bad news here. The bad news is that when I opened the shoe, I definitely found some busted grapes inside, and the steel toe had slightly collapsed. But the good news is that most of the grapes were actually fine. And more importantly, I could still put my whole hand into the toe box. Yeah, the shoe looked a little like an elf shoe at that point, but I had the feeling that my toes probably would have survived a really serious impact like this one. So I counted this as about a B-. Which takes us to overall durability. Let's start with the fact that all the marketing shows people stomping on nails to test the sole. If you watched my video on how to remove trim properly, then you might have heard me mention that I've stepped on 3 nails in my time as a carpenter. By the way, if you haven't seen this video, check it out. It's one of my more overlooked ones, but I can't think of a topic that more DIYers get wrong and end up losing money on because of it. Anyways, 3 holes in the foot is enough for me, so I tested this differently. Not with the nail gun yet, we'll get to that, but let's hold off for now and start with something more realistic. Instead, I shot a nail through a piece of plywood, like this, and then I just used some swinging force to impale an old work shoe on the nail head. As you can see, I got an immediate puncture. The Indestructible shoe was a slightly different case. I really had to give it a few good whacks and use a lot of force. And then, yes, I eventually punctured the sole. I wasn't surprised. These things aren't nail-proof despite what anyone says, so I'm glad I didn't impale my foot. But I did find something interesting. The shoes have a Kevlar layer beneath the foam insert, and while the nail did puncture the sole, it actually didn't punch through the Kevlar. It kind of made me wonder what exactly would have happened if my foot was in it. To put my curiosity to rest, I went ahead and nailed this thing to a 6x6 with a nail gun. Yep, straight through. That Kevlar is tough, but it's not impenetrable. Moral of the story, don't step on nails, no matter what shoe you're wearing. For the 4th test, the company seems to infer that the shoes are heat resistant. Or maybe it's just the fact that people keep burning them in videos. I don't know. Either way, I wasn't going to miss out on the fun. I was thinking about setting up an old-fashioned barbecue, but first, I thought I'd try something I haven't seen anyone use yet. A heat gun. For anyone who thinks these things are just glorified hair dryers, consider that most heat guns can reach something like 1100 degrees Fahrenheit. Just check out my test on a stick of plywood. After just 20 or 30 seconds, this thing was glowing like a furnace. You can burn your whole house down with a heat gun. You have to be careful with them. I had no illusion that the shoes could take this heat, especially since my model is essentially breathable mesh. And you know what? I was right. In less time than it took to ignite the wood, these shoes were experiencing classic meltdown. I guess the best I can say is that they never actually caught fire. I'll fix that shortly. But for now, I'll give the durability factor about a C overall, middle average. And I'll amend it by saying that apart from really extreme punishment, the shoes do seem pretty tough. For instance, a chisel couldn't seem to puncture the sole no matter how hard I tried. It took some repeated scoring with a utility knife to finally lay it open. So the toughness is pretty decent, if not perfect. Final grade overall? As far as the no-slip factor, steel toe, and comfort and appearance go, I'd rate my pair as a strong B. I think they'd be perfect for warehouse work, factory work, and even kitchen work. And when you consider that there are tons of styles to choose from, you could easily find a pair that fits your needs and work conditions. As for high-performance durability, let's just say that you should never do anything in this shoe that you wouldn't do to another shoe. Definitely don't stomp nails. But if you're prepared to behave like a normal human being, I think you're going to get a quality functional work shoe. And again, if you see a pair that you like, be sure to plug in the Honest20 coupon code in at the Indestructible website when you make a purchase. It'll knock off 1/5 of the price, and I'll actually receive a tiny commission from that purchase at no expense to you. This really helps the channel, and I appreciate it tremendously. Now, since you've been very patient, here's some of the Rampant shoe gore that you've most likely been waiting to see. Which leaves me with just one final question. Hey, Indestructible, can I get another pair of these? Thanks for watching, everybody.